Hello, welcome to the, uh, okay, I know this has been up for a while, or at least for, for one or two new episodes, but I just realized yesterday that I needed to change my name, cause former pro wrestler, Bobby Cruz, maybe you remember him from WCW, in the early or late 90s. He uses the name Bell to Bell. So I decided to use something I've not heard anybody use. It's body slamming. And I'm laughing because I think it sounds funny. I really didn't know what else to say, so I took my mom's advice and put body slamming. I really just wanted to talk from my heart and say I just started my new Patreon. And Patreon is, I just thought I'd share this with y'all so that y'all will check it out, because the first month is going to be free. And after the first month, I'm going to take a look at what other, what really makes fans want to be a patron of hosts. I'm not really sure how many people become patrons of people like myself, because I'm not an author. I'm not in the public eye or anything, so I don't know what to do. So if y'all know anybody listens to Patreon or Patron, however people pronounce it, then ask them to go to Patreon or to follow me on Twitter, and I'll share the I guess you call this a link of Patreon on my Twitter account. I'll tweet it on my Twitter account. So, by the way, the Twitter account I like to use for my podcast, Daniel Van Views of Wrestling, is underneath it, because I didn't change the top of the my name yet, but I will. I'm really not sure. It could be Journalist Hope. That is my actual handle. But above the handle, the name is Daniel Van's Views of Wrestling. Because I saw somebody else who is a podcast host do that for their handle. So that's why I decided to do that with mine. I don't do this without having a topic, but I just saw on Twitter. No, I just saw from my Twitter notification that from WWE Home Video UK, they retweeted that in the UK, WWE just released WWE 24 Best of 2018, and naturally it's the Home Video UK distribution, and it's obviously it's about all of their stories from the WWE Network Series 24. But what I really want to come on here and say was how, after doing my first episode Friday night, I just did my second episode on Patreon, and it's about, this time I started talking about collections because I decided to talk about the pay-per-views that happened during the ratings war, the beginning of the ratings war, Fall Brawl, and then In Your House. Well, I never did one about In Your House, so I'm gonna do that this Wednesday. Either Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday night. And then, after I talk about the pay-per-view, I'll go on right here on Spreaker again, and I'll talk about, Monday Nitro versus Monday Night Raw. And beauty part of this is that on Patreon, even though 1 hour is accepted, if I choosing to do a watch through, because whereas I saw it, I don't remember anything but the end, which is the most important part. So I will look at that and do a watch through, I guess, and then at night, because I just quickly talk about what happened on Raw and Nitro, and I talk about the matches more than anything. Only time I'll air what they actually said in promos is when there's an actual interview. Like what I this past week. Last time I did a Spreaker episode about Monday Night Ratings War. Only time I aired for the listeners out there, the audio from the show was when, might have been when they were talking about, was when Cornette was talking about the main event for this pay-per-view. So, I will try, let me underline that, to only play the audio when somebody is talking and when it's an interview or a promo, as I like to call it. Which I probably should have done that this past week, when I was talking about Raw versus Nitro, the first one. I should have probably done that because, let me see if I remember this correctly. Because of the fact that they had Dean Douglas cut a promo about costing Razor Ramon his match against 1-2-3 Kid, and then they had Razor Ramon cut a promo later on about their match against each other at In Your House. Everybody has their own opinions. I found out that Dean Douglas actually thought, and I like Sting's promos myself, but I thought, Razor Ramon's promos were great myself, but he thought his promos could have been better, so he graded Razor Ramon's promos as a D, I think, when should have been easily an A+. I really don't know what his reason is for grading promos like that, and I'm happy because I just think, no, I understand Bret Hart mailed report cards to his nephew, and now it's his nephew by marriage. Tyson Kidd is, of course, the nephew by marriage, and then D.H. Smith was his name at the time. I understand he did that, but I don't think, no, it wasn't the talking he graded, it was the in-ring work. So I understand the in-ring work being graded, because that's what most people judge on. Especially if you're like him, where he got over, even though he was a reasonable talker, he was actually better at wrestling than talking. He said so himself. So that's why I can understand him doing that, because grading according to in-ring ability, especially at that time, because these two were a tag team, and he had his most success, I believe, after learning everything he needed to learn from being booked in his father's company, or territory as it was called at the time. Most of his success in the WWE early on was the tag team matches he used to be in with Jim Neidhart. So I can understand that. I'm sorry I said that. I just was talking about that, and it just snowballed into a new conversation. I know I digressed a little bit, but it was just something to talk about as a conversation piece, and I just thought I'd share my views on it. Okay. I used to offer $5 and as one tier for my Patreon, and that is the cheapest that people offer. And what I had offered was to call somebody and ask them what they thought of the show. And one time I offered that, but to be honest, after looking at the Patreon blog of how to get successful Patreon, or how to be successful with Patrons, or with tier options, I don't know really what I can offer people. I mean, yeah, I can offer bonus episodes. But what am I going to do that's different than what I already do? So that's kind of why I want it to be free for the month, so that it'll give me more time to think about how to be different. However, when I think about it, at first I just wanted to talk about shows and break down a match, because that's what I did with Halloween Havoc 95. I spoke about that, mainly spoke about the opening match between Johnny B. Bad and Diamond Dallas Page for the World TV title at the time. And I don't know if anybody heard that. I don't know if anybody heard that because of the options I had, and it's easier to see here on Spreaker. But I believe about 15 people heard this podcast so far, or heard any podcast I hosted. many episodes I recorded. So I want to say thank you to those 15 people, or the people that listened, or thank you for the people who have listened and made it to 15. I see a lot of people on Patreon, so I just wanted to try it out. I have to be honest, because it goes for an hour, it's very fun. At the same time, I'm not really sure what to talk about, so let's have the pay-per-view this Wednesday to be different. Okay, I was gonna talk about collections and everything like that, because I don't know if anybody else is doing that. On really any podcast. But what I will do, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna finish this now, and anybody who will listen to this when y'all are awake, I'm gonna put a poll out and ask y'all, what do y'all prefer? Me, we're talking about the Monday night ratings war on Patreon, and me doing an extra episode where I break down a match, or any match I choose, or would y'all prefer me talking about, would you rather me talk about ratings war on Spreaker and continue, doing pay-per-views on Patreon and picking a match out of that to talk about. And if y'all don't like either one, then y'all can tweet me what y'all would like the idea of me doing. Because I'm not a very creative person. It's just not what I can do to be creative. So please respond to the poll, and I'll do my best to think of what I can do, and try to think of the best value to offer for that starting next month. Thank you, and goodbye.